wanted to share a tool that I started using recently. And if you're doing any prospecting or lead sourcing from LinkedIn, it's definitely worth checking out. The tool is called Surf, and it's spelled SURFE. It's a Chrome extension that allows you to add contacts to your CRM directly from LinkedIn. I use it to add contacts quickly, follow my deals, keep track of my notes, and it's actually saved me a bunch of time. The data is always 100% accurate because I don't have to copy and paste each detail from each contact over to my CRM. Instead, Surf does it all for me automatically with just one click. Now, the folks over at Surf have been kind enough to put together a promo offer for fans of SSP. You can go to the link in the show notes and use the promo code JWSURF with an E 5 for a 5% discount on your first year. Check out the link in the show notes and go check them out. This one is for the savvy startups and SMBs out there. I've got a secret weapon for you that's going to skyrocket your sales without the unnecessary headaches that come along with using one of the big player CRM systems. That secret weapon is Close CRM. Now, let's face it, we've all been there. We've used a clunky, confusing system that kind of makes you want to throw your laptop out the window. Well, fear not, Close is here to save your time, money, and sanity. Close has all of the powerful sales tools you need, minus the drama, to manage your leads, track your deals, and crush your targets effortlessly. It has calling, emailing, SMS, multi-channel sequences, and it even has meeting tracking built right in. It's easy to set up and implement. You can stop screwing around with CRMs that aren't built for you and start selling and managing customers today. You can start a free trial using the link in the show notes, special for SSP fans. Okay, I'm very excited to welcome back Chase Barmore to the podcast. Chase was on at some point last year. I don't remember exactly when. He is an account executive at WhatConverts. And before that, he was the founder of two different companies. One was a juice bar called Life Bar, and the other was a valet company. And we previously had him on the show to talk about his transition from working as an entrepreneur into the tech business. He started out at WhatConverts as a business development representative, and he's recently taken on an account executive role. What I love most about working with Chase and partnering with him is his ability to network. He is connected to everybody. He's jumped both feet into the tech industry and started really working his magic in terms of building a really strong network and community around him. He is very active in the SaaS sales player Slack community that we've put together. And it's super exciting to have him back on the show to talk about some of the things that he's been working on recently and some of the deals that he's been doing here as of late. So without further ado, welcome Chase back to the SaaS Sales Players. The microphone that I started the show with was the Blue by Yeti. It's like a $99 mic on Amazon. I really should put some kind of an affiliate link out there because I've recommended this mic to everybody that I know. And you might be thinking, well, I need to have a podcast to go and invest in a podcast mic. And I would say this is like a hybrid podcast mic. I think a lot of like YouTube streamers use it and gamers and things like that. But where I've used it a lot, and that's not the one that I have in front of me right now. I'm using a Shure at the moment. This one's a little more if you want to get more serious into content or audio creation. But the Yeti is great for just Zoom meetings because here's the thing. This is something that actually happened. I had a prospect a few years ago when I was using my Yeti mic just on my desktop for Zoom calls for selling. She said, wow, I've been on 6 vendor calls today because we're evaluating for this project. And you sound crystal clear. You're the first sales rep that doesn't give doesn't give me a migraine, but I listen to you talk. Because she's like, it seems like every person on Zoom just uses their default microphone on the laptop. And so the sound can get kind of degraded and it's scratchy or it can sound like muffled. And so she's like, you sound like you're on a radio show or something. You sound like $1 million. And so then she asked me what mic are you using? I held it up and I was like, it's this Blue by or the Yeti by Blue Microphones, I think is the name of it. The Blue Yeti. And she's like, wow. And she bought one like less than a week later. I talked to her again and she's like, I got one of these same mics. I just thought it would help my Zoom meetings go a lot smoother if I had better audio quality. And so I tend to try to use that, or I now have this Shure mic, which again is specific for podcasting, but I actually keep this plugged in. Sometimes I keep it out of sight. And it's one kind of little hack if you are a remote based seller on how you can up your audio game. And what I'll do is I'll put a link in the show notes for the Yeti. It's a great mic, and the other thing that I like about it is it has a mute button right on the actual microphone. So if you have to cough in the middle of a demo or something, you can just hit the mute button, cough. I call it the cough button. And then it actually doesn't show on Zoom that you're muted. So people don't know you're muted, or nobody notices anything different. You can totally be coughing or someone's shouting at you or something like that. You can just quickly mute your mic. So anyway, that's the Blue. Chase and I were just riffing on tech and gear and stuff. But Chase, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me back, Jesse. This has been awesome. Great to have you back in my queue, in 2023.
Yeah. You've had some big moves here in the last couple of weeks, months, and so I wanted to bring you back on to talk a little bit about that. We were just debating. It's Friday, and it's a really nice kind of spring day outside for me, and we were just off air debating what we wanted to talk about today. So we're kind of just open micing it right now. There's no formalities here. We got a couple of different topics that we thought we'd cover, but let's start with you made a big career move. Tell us about that. Tell us about the experience so far, and yeah, what's new there.
Yeah, so all thanks to Jesse and the SaaS Sales Players podcast crew. I started my tech career 11 months ago. I'm almost in my first year in tech, and it's been an interesting ride. It's been a wild ride. I've I started as a BDR at WhatConverts, and we just are starting to scale. And so now they've promoted me to be an AE. And so I've been in the AE role for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, maybe, I guess. Yeah.
So tell us about what the day-to-day looks like now, just from transit. First of all, before we jump into that, what do you think it was that helped you accelerate so quickly? Because one of the questions I get all the time is, I've been an SDR for a year, 18 months, 2 years, 5 years, whatever the time frame is. What do you think it was that helped you accelerate from SDR to AE so quickly? Give us maybe like the 2 or 3 things that you think you've done that maybe others haven't thought to do, or that really made you stand out as someone that was ready to transition from that role to the AE role.
Yeah, it's a great question and I think I was in a very unique situation with the company that I chose, since WhatConverts is fully bootstrapped. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a full team of SDRs. And when I was hired as a BDR. So basically, I was doing all my own prospecting, booking my own meetings, doing my own demos, closing my own demos. And one of the things that helped me to accelerate was building my network, and like being a remote worker, going outside into the real world and creating a network of people.
Yeah, and we were talking about this a little bit, because if you follow Chase on LinkedIn, and you should be following Chase on LinkedIn, pretty much every week I feel like I boot up my LinkedIn feed, and it's Chase at some event somewhere in person, maybe in a different state, maybe in the same state you're in, sometimes on stage, sometimes drinking a nice glass of bourbon, and I'm always scratching my head over here, because since the pandemic started, it's been really hard for me to get back out there. I've done a few in-person events, but it has not been what it was before the pandemic for me. And what I've gathered is that you're figuring out where these things are happening on your own. This is not you're not waiting for your manager to come to you and say, "Hey, we're going to fly you out to this event," or "You need to drive over to this event." You're out there figuring it out on your own accord, how to be more present in person, and make more connections in person. What are some of the ways that, and we probably talked about this in the last episode you did, but remind us again, what are some of the ways that you're finding these different networking events? Because I do think that's probably a huge reason that you've had so much success so quickly.
I would agree. And there was a book that I read. It was called $100 Million Offers by Alex Hermosi. And he says, he has this quote that just sticks in my mind: there's riches and niches.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm looking at networking, I'm trying to niche down. I'm trying to understand, where are my prospects going to be hanging out? where are the people that are going to be not even influential buyers, but where are the people that I am looking to connect with potential buyers, potential stakeholders, maybe VCs? Where are they going to be hanging out at?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that I did within Louisville, and that's where I lived for a while, and we bought a house and we moved outside of Frankfurt and Kentucky. But I connected with someone at the Greater Louisville Inc., and that's like a chamber of commerce. So every city has a chamber of commerce. Every city has small business networking. Every city has this. So you can find this, and they're actively doing network. There's BNI. I'm not really, I haven't been to BNI, so I can't give a yay or nay on that, uh, because that's like a referral based networking group. But what I have found is one of the things, and one of my own passions is being a former founder. I love other founders. I love other entrepreneurs. But what I didn't realize as a founder is there's tech groups that are for founders and
Interesting.
startup scenes. So I've gotten involved with the University of Kentucky, the University of Louisville, Venture Connectors in Louisville, Indianapolis with their MarTech scene. And we're going to go back to, I remember talking about this damn Calendly link.
Yeah.
It's like having the Calendly link, having your LinkedIn, and just connecting with 2 or 3 people at every event in a genuine way and learning more about their business. And then sometimes you can either get intros from those people, or they are your target market. You already know that you're going after them, but it's a genuine connection and you're curious.
So with most of these, you're getting in the car and you're driving. Is it just across town, or are you driving a few hours to get to another city? What's been the sort of typical travel and yeah, just the kind of travel lift, if you will?
Yeah. So for where I was located in Louisville, where our apartment was, we were located right downtown, and me and my wife, we share a vehicle. So I would just grab a bird and I would just take a scooter and just go to
Oh,
these
nice.
different bars or wherever. They were a couple miles away. I mean, everything was
Yeah.
really in a downtown area. So that was awesome. I've been going to Lexington, which is like an hour away. I've gone to Indianapolis, which is in about an hour and a half away. But the majority of my meetings, I've found like a bunch of networking meetings that are virtual and they're on Zoom. So
Yeah.
I just am right here in my
That's cool
house.
too. Yeah, that
Hmm.
is nice. Do you do anything before the event to try to book sessions or book appointments with your targets there, or you just kind of wait and organically let those conversations happen at the event in person?
I do some research. So I obviously I'm now actually on the I'm not it's like not a nonprofit, but there's a group in Louisville called the Startup Grind, and it's actually a nationwide or an international conference, but they have like local chapters. And so there's a local chapter in Louisville, and I just would go to this meeting consistently.
Mm-hmm.
It was last Wednesday of every month. And so I would always be there, and they would always promote the speaker who was going to be speaking, the founder who's doing a fireside chat. So what I would always do is before that meeting, I would know who the speaker was. I'd reach out to him on LinkedIn. I would say, hey, my name's Chase. I really look forward to this discussion you're going to be talking about. I would love to meet you at the event. And these events are only like 20 or 30 people. So you're going to be able to meet the person. It's very intimate. It's not like one of these big
Yeah.
conferences where it's just there's thousands and thousands of people. It's very organic and,
Mm-hmm.
people trying to get in the startup scene. And tech founders could be software developers, could be engineers, could be people from GE, Humana, former workers,
That's
people that
cool.
are, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that's cool to hear that it spans verticals, right? It's not just one typical type. So that is what's interesting about the kind of chamber of commerce approach that I'm hearing is like it's not just a specific industry trade event, it spans a lot more industries and verticals, so you can try to capture, basically cast a wider net, right? Than if you were just going to a very niche conference somewhere that only focuses on one type of person. So when you meet prospects there, the Calendly I assume you just connect with folks on LinkedIn, or do you is there another way that you try to stay in touch and follow up after the show? Or it sounds like you might be trying to book meetings directly via Calendly for follow-ups, depending on if they're the right buyer persona.
Yeah, it's like, and sometimes these meetings you can actually see who's going to attend via LinkedIn. So you can see if there are good prospects there. So you can really be like, all right, I need to go for this marketing agency. I know they're going to be there. I need to talk with this person.
Yeah.
And you have a really honed in approach. But for these smaller events where I really might not know everybody, all I'm trying to do is just use the LinkedIn barcode or QR code, connect with them on LinkedIn, and make sure that I follow up and add them to my CRM, and then get a cadence going of,
Yeah.
and start liking, commenting on their post, and then most likely just say, hey, I want to have a one-to-one with you, and just connect and understand your business more.
Nice. Tell us a little bit about closing the gap between, the skill of being an SDR, which is heavy prospecting, cold calling, emailing, networking is also part of that. But now to closing deals, and I understand you've got a couple of deals under your belt now. How was the transition from, and I know you're formerly a business owner, so you know a lot about negotiating and signing paperwork and those kind of things that are involved with the deal process. But tell us about how you started to, maybe before you jumped into the AE role, and then once you were in that AE role, what were some of the things that you did to make sure that you were thinking about how to close deals and building a process for yourself there?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the things in my SDR, his name's Antonio. We're working in pods now, and we talk about this a lot. Is, when I hear the word cold call, like I feel like people think it's like cold, like there's no humanness to it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm intentionally in my life, I'm trying to be more create human connection. So even when I am prospecting, when I'm selling, when I'm on a demo or I'm on a call, I'm not just trying to push my product down your throat. It's a consultative conversation. There's some give and take, and
Yeah.
I really want to nurture the relationship, because
Yeah.
what I'll tell you is, like, one of the first deals that I sold. It might not have been that big of a deal. It was for a allergist. They had about 50 locations. They needed new call tracking services, and they were looking at a competitor. They were moving from a competitor to us, and we sold them, and they were very unhappy with their current provider.
Hmm.
And that was really when I got into that demo, and this was an inbound. When I got into that demo, they were just really, I could see that their marketing team, there was about 6 people in the meeting. They were physically upset and dealing with this software solution.
Sure.
And so just understanding what they were going through, and just being like, it's not going to be like that with us. And I'm going to make sure that you don't have that same experience with WhatConverts. And staying with that prospect the whole time, even when I've handed them off to onboarding, even when the customer service manager gets with them, making sure you're following up that process and that they're happy is gold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Was
what
it?
happens about 6 months later,
Mhm.
one of the biggest deals in my life comes in, and they ask me, and they're in the same healthcare industry. They're a Fortune 500 company. They say, hey, Chase, you're going up against CallRail, and we're going up against WhatConverts. And they said, do you have any references of people in the medical industry who have shifted from
Oh, no.
CallRail to WhatConverts?
Wow.
And I said, you know what? I actually do. Let me make an introduction.
Fresh
And
off the
what
press. Yeah.
fresh off the press. And that referral, that reference is what got us that deal.
That's a great story, because that's so how I think it drives a few points home. One of them is that striking while the iron's hot is like one of the cliches, but the other one is like the success breeds success, right? So you have what I've found for me, especially in the last 18 months, when I have a win, I usually have another win that follows very, very closely behind it. Because when you're winning, you're kind of you're gaining this momentum, and that's contagious. And stuff just starts to fall into place. You're already in like scrappy problem solver mode. And so I love that coming off that one, that snowballed into a much bigger deal because they were from the same industry, and you were able to. Did you introduce them as references, or okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And
Yeah.
it was, and I think that is pretty it's a little bit, I mean, it's an ask. You're
Yeah.
asking somebody, I mean, but the first ask that I did for this company was to get them get a G2 review, and they were happy to write a G2 review. So I knew that since they had written a G2 review 3 months prior,
Yeah.
they were they had a great experience. And so I was like, they're willing to share it with somebody else.
That's cool. Yeah, that's pretty soon to provide a reference. That's really, really awesome that they did that. But yeah, that's a great story. So with your deals that you're doing, are there usually several decision makers, maybe not decision makers, but several stakeholders involved in each deal? Or does it tend to be one person that takes charge of it? Or is it a steering committee, a committee, especially for the large one? Do you have like a big procurement group or something like that you're working with? How complex do these get?
On the larger deals, that have procurement departments, they have law departments. So then you're going through all these different gates, and you think that the deal's going to close, and then it's like, oh, we're going to push it out another 2 weeks because procurement or whatever. So that I've
Yeah.
dealt with that. And then we're also dealing with marketing agencies who might have 100, or let's say 50 to 1,000 clients, individual clients, but they're already using a solution, and they're hesitant to migrate everybody over to our solution. So
Yeah.
that's always a problem that we solve. And then sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time, and it just falls right into place, and you can get a deal done quickly, or somebody inbound comes in and they're just on fire and they need it done immediately.
Yeah. Um, how has your pipe generation changed since getting into the AE role? Have you had to kind of taper off the amount of outbound that you were doing from the BDR role to the AE role, or have you tried to keep it the same? Or have you done anything different that you weren't doing as an SDR BDR that you're doing now as a rep that's different from a prospecting standpoint?
It's a great question. I would say that I'm not going to as many. I was going to so many meetings when I was a SDR, BDR, and in person, and I've sort of taken a step back on that. And I would say when I was networking, I was really just taking any one-to-one. It really didn't matter who you were. I was just willing to talk to you. And
Yeah.
now that I'm in more of my calendar's getting a lot more full, I'm, instead of taking every meeting, I'm refining the approach and who I'm going after. And I'm being a lot more strategic and
Yeah.
what I'm going after. And really, even if I have a one-to-one with somebody that is not an ideal customer profile, I still know how to ask them to say, if you know anybody in marketing that works with plumbers or lawyers or uh, any service-based industry,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great referral source for me. And then that
Yeah.
person a lot of times will refer me, or that'll they'll be like, oh, have you talked to John or over here at this agency? And you just try to keep that going.
Nice. Yeah,
So
that's cool.
I don't know. It's like I have a great SDR. We have great SDRs on our team. But when I've never had SDRs on my team before, so I'm continuously booking meetings myself because I can't rely on somebody else. And if I want to get to where my goals are of want to hit $250,000 in income for myself this year, I'm gonna have to push it. I'm gonna have to book my own meetings, and I know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a mentality that I've always held is even with the kind of luxury of having SDRs, and it is a luxury and it's a luxury that can get taken away really quickly sometimes. When the structure changes or you change companies and you go to a company that doesn't have an SDR team. So I've tried not to get too used to it as like my only source of pipeline. And I've always had the mentality actually that the SDR's work is like extra. It should, I should try to generate the metric that like most sales managers use is somewhere between 3 to 5x pipeline coverage. So if your quota is a million, let's make it easy numbers. If your quota is $1 million a year in enterprise selling, which $1 million is a pretty normal standard number for enterprise sales reps as a quota, then you over the course of the year need to try to generate somewhere between $3 million and $5 million in pipeline. The more the better, but getting over $5 million of pipeline is not an easy feat. But just relying on an SDR, just relying on marketing inbound leads, you likely will not get that kind of coverage, especially because the bigger deals tend to be done through outbound prospecting, because you're able to then kind of target big companies that have big problems that you can go out and solve with your solution. And so I've always held that same mantra that, like, yes, it's great to have the extra supplemental pipeline coming from an SDR lead or coming from a marketing inbound demo request. But if I want to have 3 to 5 times pipeline coverage for the year, and by the way, you can break that pipeline coverage out over the quarter. I mean, if your quota is $250,000 a quarter, then you can just try to have 750 in pipeline every quarter, because it's really hard to have full pipe coverage in the first couple months of the year because you're still hitting the ground and trying to build it. So in a lot of these industries, you hit the majority of your number from a handful of deals. I shouldn't even say a handful of deals, like 1 or 2 deals. And those may not close until closer to the end of the year, late August, September, before code freezes happen, or they happen earlier in the year, January, February, March, and that kind of makes or breaks the rest of your year. So it kind of depends, but yeah, those are the numbers that I try to go by, is how do I build 5 times my annual quota in pipeline? And if I break that out in quarters, what does that look like? And when you really run the numbers, you'll realize that you can't get there just on, taking leads from SDRs or marketing channels. You've got to really go out and do some of your own outbound prospecting.
And it's a skill. I'm
is.
starting to understand that this is a skill, and not everybody has it. And it can be taught, though. That's the amazing thing. I know a lot of people, and that's one of the things that I was thinking about when I was listening to your show, is how do I develop this skill?
It sounds like you're doing a lot of the right things. I mean, you're doing more than most people that are in my network, like figuring out chambers of commerce and trying to really pinpoint who your buyer is, and then finding other ways to reach that buyer that aren't just cold emails, cold calls. Those are sort of staple channels, right? I send cold emails, I do cold calls, and they're great. Yeah, they do get pipeline, right? But it's cool to hear that you're doing things like, hey, if I just go to this event, I might meet someone who can introduce me to someone who might be an opportunity. And it may not happen now. It may happen in 6 months from now, but I've already started planting the seeds that I'm going to sow later on this year to continue to drive towards my number. So and lately what I've been trying to do, this has been a little bit harder, but I've been trying to ask customers for referrals. And this is something that, like, what I found, hardly any companies actually implement this, and very few reps out there are good at this. I would lump myself in that also. I'm still learning, but asking your customers for introductions to people in their network is a way easier lead than a cold call or a cold email, because if you're already a happy customer, you should be pretty happy to go and introduce someone in your network to the rest of the team. So I've been trying to do more of that. this year I've been working on some channel type deals. So if your company has like a channel or a partnership program where a partner rep can introduce through a reseller, through a third party or a referral partner, something like that. Those are all, I think, channels that are going to continue to grow, especially over the next 6 to 12 months, as we're kind of in the and beyond. 6 to 12 months is when we're going to see a big spike. And then I think beyond that, you'll see more and more people thinking about selling through the channel, as opposed to maybe the more traditional ways of cold emails, sequences. I don't think those things are going away, just to be clear. But I do think that there might be more emphasis on other ways to find prospects besides just the traditional selling tactics. And so I think it's cool to see you're getting a big head start on that by going out, networking with people in person, connecting on LinkedIn, attending events on Zoom, conferences on Zoom or shows on Zoom, and doing things like this. Like I know you're involved in a bunch of different Slack communities also. And I think that's a really cool way. Slack is a very underrated tool in selling. And I've talked about that on the show before, some ways that I use it, whether that's connecting with your buyers and actually bringing your prospects into a Slack channel, which I've done tons of times. I actually just recently did that, where I had my executive decision maker in a Slack channel, and I had direct access and could ask questions and follow up and get information transferred really quickly. And then I think you're using it, which is pretty cool, as a way to generate some leads and to start to build those relationships for future deals.
Totally. I can't believe how many Slack communities there are, and there's niche Slack communities. So there's like a Flyover VC, I think it's called Flyover Tech. Then I'm in Scotty Leese's little sales club, some other CPG groups, and I can just hop back and forth. There's like a Lexington one, there's a Louisville one, Louisville Tech, and they might not be that active, but you can DM people in these things. And a lot of people are willing to take the time to talk. And you can ask.
A lot of people have Slack on their phone. I mean, most people probably do, because if their company's using Slack, they have Slack on their phone so that their manager or their team or whoever can reach them at any given point. So once you get one Slack on your phone, typically all your other Slacks end up on your phone, right? So if you got your employer one, any other memberships or communities you're part of, and then, from a just networking standpoint, it's a really easy way to cut through some of the noise. And now that we're talking about this, thousands of people are going to rush all the different Slack communities and use them for places to scrape prospects. But you can connect two Slack channels together too. So this is the trick for using it for prospecting. It's not super complicated technically, but you do probably need to reach out to your administrator at your company. So if you're selling a SaaS product, or you're working at a SaaS company right now, you can invite your prospects into your Slack, and they can actually link their Slack to your company's Slack and make a shared channel. And then you can, I'm telling you, it's the easiest way to follow up with people.
Wow.
Because if you think about,
that's awesome.
Because look, and I really do see, I know like Slack started out as like this email killer. And I think in a lot of ways it has, because it's definitely killed internal memos and emails, because most people will just post in Slack instead of sending a big memo, or, big email memo out. I'm thinking about like the companies I've been at, the founders or the executives or leaders of the company would just post an update in Slack versus sending everybody an email. And then even like people interacting with their managers or their team members, it all happens in Slack. It's pretty obvious that, and I shouldn't say obvious, but it's a great opportunity for also having that same engagement with your prospects through the platform, because again, you link your Slack with theirs, you can have a direct access to them. They can't go dark on you when they're in a shared Slack. That's what I've found. And the only other tool that I've found, but SMS is obviously texting, for those who don't know what SMS is. I'm an industry guy for that. So text messaging is also a great indicator of you're moving in the right direction. You're building the right champion at the deal. Once you start texting with your buyers, you kind of, for me, that's like one of the leading indicators of a deal.
I've closed like 5 deals just from text messages, and just because I know how busy, we are all on our phones, and it's like I would sign up for a demo or a trial just right on a text.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way. I check my email as often as I can, but SMS is pretty instant. People text me, I get back pretty quickly. Email, not so much. So when the deals that I've done that were significant in my career, I was I was usually pretty confident they were going to close because I was texting with the right people, and there was like a flutter of activity, and you're thinking, okay, this is going to happen because we're just in this now. We're partners in this, and my champion is really trying to get this done. So texting, the only other tool I'd throw out there for people that sell internationally outside of the US is WhatsApp. I've found this to be incredibly helpful for deals that I've done in Europe and Latin America. So there's some cool functionality with it too. Like you can actually create a QR code. I know that's QR codes are back in now. I know they were kind of like passe for a while, but you can actually create a QR code and put it on your slide decks or put it on your email signature. And then when someone scans the QR code, it actually takes you to a direct message with your WhatsApp. And so what I did for a long time was I would put a QR code in a proposal, or I'd put it in a follow-up document or deck. If I was sending over like an overview deck to a prospect, I'd put the QR code for my WhatsApp. And this is mainly for my foreign. WhatsApp is not super well adopted in the US yet. I think there's a lot of people that do still use it, but I think SMS texting is really the main way people communicate on mobile in the US still. But yeah, you send this QR code out, and what I found was great about it is I'd send out a proposal, and then I'd have this QR code, and a couple days later, someone would WhatsApp me from one of the prospect accounts and say, "Hey, we had a follow up question on the pricing or whatever," and then you just start this mobile based conversation through WhatsApp, and you can call people through WhatsApp too. You can do voice memos. Same with SMS texting; it's all the same. But for the international, if you're selling to someone in Europe, I guarantee you'll get a really quick response back if you send a WhatsApp to that person, or you give them a way to send you a WhatsApp. Same with like South America, Latin America. India is also a massive market for WhatsApp. So if you're selling into any of those markets heavily, I would strongly recommend, if you're not already signed up for WhatsApp, get that going, and yeah, get your prospects talking to you on mobile channels. And so, yeah, texting, Slack, WhatsApp, all really great channels to bring your conversations in. So yeah, went on a long
Slack
tangent.
is just, Slack. I can't say enough about Slack because basically you can use the huddle feature, and like people in our group and the SaaS sales player group. I mean, we can just huddle, and I love that feature. And that's what I do with our SDRs and AEs, anybody at our company. We just huddle, and you just have a live conversation right there.
Yeah. What other tools have you found a lot of success with? Just generally speaking, share some of the Chase Barmore tech stack.
Great question. Chase Barmore tech stack. It's interesting. I was on a demo right before this, and my a person that you had on your podcast, Patrick Parker, he has a company called, I think it's called LinkBridge, and it's an automation LinkedIn profile. So it helps like with cadences on LinkedIn. So I'm going to test this one out. But the one I've been really playing with lately that I love, and I pay for it out of my own pocket, is lavender.io. And that's a AI email tool. And then also, I mean, yeah, I think Lavender's been my number one jam because it's
How are you using it? What walk me through like a use case. I don't have it yet. I've heard a lot about it, but tell us about what Lavender does.
so one thing that Lavender does is first it scores your email because it's a Chrome browser and a Chrome extension. And so it can rate your email of like, is this email likely to get read? What would you change? But one of the features that I just love is it actually pulls the prospect's email address and it scrubs their LinkedIn profile, their business profile page. So you can see like anything that's going on. So you can really personalize your message to that client. So you can say, oh, hey, congratulations on getting that new funding round or whatever. And I mean, you
Wow.
can get super personal, and it's super simple.
Huh. Yeah, that's that. I need to go check that out. I should definitely go check out a demo of that, or say at the very least a demo. I should go try it out with some of my stuff. That sounds awesome.
And I heard about them through Scotty Leese's little sales club, and
Hmm.
they offer their product to anybody that is not employed. I think they give you a free version of this thing, so it can help you generate cold outbound. It can help with replies. I'm not a great grammar person, so it really helps with grammar. So that was my like plight. I like asked the Slack channel. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not writing great emails. I need help with this. What do you suggest? All these people suggested Lavender and then another tool which I haven't tried out yet. So
Yeah.
that's
Cool.
that's really I mean that what else? I
Do you,
mean this
do,
this H7 network that I've been a part of has been a key to my success. And that's like a virtual networking group.
yeah.
And then okay, I this is like a secret tool for me prospecting.
All right.
Okay,
Let's
I'm
hear
gonna
it.
I'm gonna tell you. So I sell to marketing agencies, and I know
Hmm.
my phone is listening to me all the time. And so I allow Facebook ads to track me. So when I'm on Instagram,
Hmm.
agency owners are serving me ads
Right.
all the
Right.
time. Every third post is an ad for these agencies. I will click on these agencies and actually start prospecting these people. I might even prospect them in my DMs on Instagram. And it's like I'm getting served prospects. They're paying for ads and they're serving me ads and I'm
So you,
prospecting them.
so you
That
just
makes
take like,
sense.
yeah, I'm trying to unpack that a little bit because I think, again, you have such creative ways of like thinking about how to get connected to people. And so you're basically seeing an ad get served up, and that ad might have the name of the firm, right? Let's just call it, Chase's agency. That's marketing, Chase's marketing agency. There you
Yeah,
go,
lead
lead
gen.
gen. Yeah,
Chase's lead
Chase's
gen. Yeah.
Chase's lead gen agency, and then you're saying, okay, I can go sell to that agency. So you click through the ad, or do you just copy the URL and then go do some research,
I
or do
might
you click through the ad?
screenshot it or I click the ad. I might cost that person some money. And then I call them and I say, how's that ad working out for you? Because you're targeting the wrong person. But
Oh, that's
hey,
good. That's
I
really
want
good.
to I want to see how is this ad performing for you?
Yeah,
Do you know what you're getting ROAS wise? Do you know, are you targeting the right people? Uh,
yeah.
But I'm in a very, that's what I sell is I sell call tracking and form tracking and for agencies to be able to show their value to their prospects. So that's,
Yeah.
but I was telling Antonio about this. It's like, this is a free way. Basically, they're paying me to prospect them.
That's so good. Yeah,
And
I've
it's
had
like,
I'm a big fan of doing that level of research up front on a buyer. So in your case, you're kind of seeing their marketing experience or their ad targeting experience first. One of the things that I've sold in the past is like chatbot. I still sell chatbots, and I'll go through their chatbot sequence and see, the whole experience, and then document some areas where there's missing functionality or there's confusing aspects of it that might turn a customer off. And then I used to record those into a video and send a video saying, hey, I just went through your bot experience and noticed this aspect of your bot was unclear and it was awkward and didn't work or was broken, whatever it is. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. By the way, I'm in the business of selling chatbots, right? So that's one way that I've done it. We used to do these like site audits at a company I worked for where we would go and audit their entire website experience from start to finish, like the conversion funnel. It was an e-commerce SaaS product. So it was like, let's go through, and in a lot of cases we would actually go through and actually buy something, and our founder would let us expense it, which is really fun, like because we were prospecting brands like Under Armour and
nice.
Sonos, and I'm trying to think of some of the other brands that we bought stuff from. So we actually went through and we would purchase stuff and we could expense it, and we did it kind of in the name of hey, we're just doing an audit on your site. We went through and purchased something from underarmour.com, and we noticed that there was all these friction points in the customer journey, and we want to show you how we can help you improve those. And so those are the best pitches. People really, really respond well to that level of research. The challenge that I've found with that is it's hard to do at scale. You got to be selling a SaaS product that you can charge a pretty good amount for, in order to justify an amount of time spent on doing that level of research, or in that case, even buying the product and going through a whole sales funnel and buying something to then prospect. So if you're selling kind of a lower ticket thing, it's harder to get that much research in and justify it. You have to know that you're prospecting, a brand that's going to be able to give you, I don't know, 6 figures plus, 6 or multiple 6 figures plus back in potential, ARR revenue. So, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of it, and that sounds good. So it sounds like you've pinpointed an area where you can go and do that kind of research on your buyers and get, basically people paying to talk to you.
Well, and we use this little tool called what is it called? It's called the cookie editor. And so we can just go onto somebody's website and I can see all the cookies that are on the website, and I can know instantly, like, are you using call rail? Are you using call tracking metrics? And what you were just saying, Jesse, is like, how can I provide value? And
Yeah.
that I think value is really what gets a lot of these SDRs and people to book the meetings, is showing the value, showing you care. And it's like, let's get into this. Let's have a 15-20 minute discussion with an AE that understands the pain points, because you're really talking to their pain points.
Yeah. Have you used Chat GPT at all for anything selling related yet?
I have not. I'm not on this train yet. The Chat GDP that I have been a part of is a company that actually prospected. They're called ZyraTalk, and they have an AI white labeled chat bot. So they sell to agencies, and I think now they're integrated with Chat GDP, or what is it? Is it Chat?
Yeah, GPT. Chat GPT.
Chat GPT. See, I don't even know the acronyms yet, but
Right.
it's really amazing. I mean, I'm watching people on LinkedIn. I'm watching, these. I think it's a great technology. I had a really interesting meeting with a guy who helps with automation, and I mean, he's just taken this to the next level. And he's like, in 30 and 2050, we're all gonna the human race is no longer going to be in existence. We're going to merge human with technology. I'm like, I don't think
Yeah.
we're there. I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, but there are a lot of big questions, but it doesn't. I mean, I asked it to write me a bio, and it didn't do a
Yeah.
good job on it.
Really? Okay.
Well,
This
it was
this
all untrue information. It said I went to Harvard. I did all this
this
stuff.
was
It's very interesting.
so this is Chat GPT, or this is another tool?
That was Chat GDP. Yeah. And I had my link of I said, write
Yeah.
me a bio from my LinkedIn, and it just didn't do anything. I probably didn't know the prompts. And that's what I'm realizing.
So here's my take. Like, it's a hype cycle, right, in the business. Everyone's talking about it right now. I hate to even give it a lot more attention because I'm not an expert on it. I'm not, I'm probably not using it in a super interesting or novel way. And I don't know that I think it's going to change a lot of things. I do believe that. How quickly that happens, I don't know. How much change, also hard to know. But I'll just share how I've used it. I did download it. I'm not doing the paid version of it. I do know some colleagues of mine are. And what I did so far that I thought was helpful was, we were doing a trade show, and I said, write a 3-step sales prospecting sequence focused on this event, with these details about the location of the event and the booth and everything else. And please write like a 3-step email sequence inviting buyers of this profile to this event. And it actually did a pretty good job. I still took what ChatGPT spit out and I reworded a lot of things to make it my own, to make it sound a little more personalized and a little more human. But sometimes one of the biggest challenges for me that I've had with like creating prospecting emails or creating content for the show or whatever is you just need someone to kind of get the ball rolling, or something, in this case something, not someone. And sometimes you just need to get the creative process started. It's easier to look at an existing email sequence template and say, oh, I can just tweak a few things and now it's a really good sequence, versus writing it from scratch and starting with a blank piece of paper, a blank canvas, blank Word document, whatever it is, and having to then write a prospecting email. So it was really helpful for that. I thought the sequence structure looked really good. Like I said, made some changes and changed some wording, but overall, it was a really easy way to quickly get a sequence put together. The other way I'm hearing about it getting used is for people who are prospecting into a very specific list of brands, and they want to maybe pull out the name of the CFO for every one of those brands or something like that. So if you're targeting 15 or 20 or 30 named accounts, and you want to know who the CFO is at those accounts because you want to make sure that you're aware of who that person is in your deal cycle, or maybe you want to prospect into that person, it might even be able to fetch their email addresses. I don't know about that yet, so don't quote me on that. But at the very least, you get the name of the CFO of your top 10 prospecting accounts. And then you can go look that person up on LinkedIn and connect with them, or go find their email address in your Zoom info account or whatever you use for lead gen, prospecting data. So those are a couple ways that I've heard it used. I think
I've
it's
had a
probably,
lot of our SDRs just think that they're using it a lot.
yeah,
It's not a silver bullet. And that's, I think a lot of people, I think the hype is making people think that it's a silver bullet. It's not that.
it's definitely
Yeah.
not a silver bullet. And I think like the monetization opportunity for it is more in the supplementary stuff. So one idea that I've had is someone could create, for example, a training course on how to write prompts, because that seems to be the hardest part about it. If you don't prompt Chat GPT really well, then you get what you put into it. The inputs or the outputs reflect the inputs, right? So whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So the better your prompts are, and by prompts I mean like, I need a sequence that's geared towards, or I need an email template, a cold email template that's geared towards this type of buyer with this type of message, with this specific data point. Like the very specific prompts are going to help the end product come out a lot better. And it seems like especially sellers, we have a hard time like figuring out what those inputs are, those prompts are. And so I think someone could probably create a course that's sales inputs for, or sales prompts for Chat GPT that'll help you scale your book of business or something, and probably make a good amount of money. So the analogy that I've heard a bunch of times, and I'll repeat it because I think it's a good one, is in the gold rush, it was the people selling the shovels and the Levi's jeans that made the most money, not necessarily the gold miners, right?
Ooh.
And so I think GPT is like it's the gold miner, but the people that are really going to make a lot of money from Chat GPT are the people selling the Levi's jeans and the shovels. And an example of the Levi's jean or shovels is selling courses around how to use it more efficiently.
Jasper
Selling,
AI. Would Jasper
yeah,
AI be one of those, or is it competing? Like, I don't understand. That's what I don't understand about this whole thing.
it's funny. I know the guys at Jasper, but I don't have a lot of familiarity with the product personally. And I feel like they've been working on it since well before ChatGPT was released. So theirs might be completely different. I think it's more geared towards marketers also. But yeah, those guys are based in Austin. I actually worked in the same office as them for a while. They had a different company that was named something else before, but yeah, I'm not too familiar with what Jasper does. I should look into that. I think it's more geared towards like marketing content creation. But yeah, I think the possibilities are big. I think there's like ways to make money from it. And so I think where it'll get exciting for SaaS companies is you'll probably see a lot of SaaS companies incorporate features that rely on Chat GPT into their existing product. So if you're selling a MarTech SaaS, then there's probably some content generation element that's going to be added into that SaaS as part of this now open source technology. Or if you're selling a sales enablement or acceleration software, then there's going to be some AI generative piece that goes into that product that helps faster, helps you write a sequence faster, or maybe helps you summarize data in a way that you couldn't before. And that's actually one of the biggest use cases that I haven't yet explored. Is apparently you can put very long form text into ChatGPT and condense it down to like a few key bullet points. And where I could see that being valuable for sellers is, I don't know if this is possible yet. I'm just sort of spitballing here on a Friday afternoon. But if you've ever gotten back a really long service agreement or like a service agreement or a security document, like for doing your deals, right? You have like an order form, and then you have the master service agreement. And so sometimes the prospect will redline those agreements, right? And they'll add in a bunch of language. So you could probably summarize a really long and complex legal document in ChatGPT, and then take those summary points and send them to your manager or your general counsel and say, hey, it seems like the prospect needs to change these 3 aspects of the contract for us to get this deal done. Again, don't try this at home, kids. Check with your manager first before you do stuff like that. I don't know if it's theoretically, I think, possible and plausible that that's like a use case, but before you go start dumping legal documents into it and trying to have ChatGPT do your job, I would definitely, get some guidance on it. But I think that's summarizing. Yeah.
Do you think ChatGPT, because last night we were watching the news and old TikTok was on the news talking to the old government, and it's like, man, is all this information just getting sucked in, and it's just somebody's able to look at everything that's inputted into this system? And is it SOC 2 compliant? Is it HIPAA compliant? I mean,
probably not. I would say no on both of those, for sure. Definitely not HIPAA compliant.
Yeah, be careful. If whatever you put on this thing, just somebody probably will see what you put on this thing.
Oh, 100%. I don't know this for sure, but I know that Sam Altman, the guy behind it, was trying to build a neural network, which is basically like, it's like indexing all of the information in the world in one place. I don't know if this product or this ChatGPT ties into that vision or not. I'm really not that educated on it, other than I used it to write an email sequence for selling.
Did it sell anything, Jesse? That's my question. Did it sell? Has it got you a lead, meeting, or a sale? Or you haven't tested it out yet? It's still in test.
I did test it. I have not actually heard anything back yet, but it is a pretty new campaign.
I want to hear somebody that has sold something with something written from chat, whatever it is.
All right, that's great. Guest request,
please.
Chase and I want to have someone on the show that has successfully sold SaaS or whatever product using ChatGPT.
Book demos, whatever.
I'm sure there's plenty of demo bookings out there. I'm sure there's plenty of like leads generated. And hell, for all I know, someone has sold a SaaS deal using ChatGPT in some way. But I'd be curious to talk to some people who've done it. I don't think it's going to replace sellers either. And I know that sentiment's pretty common. That's not a hot take by any means. Most people agree, especially for the more strategic deals that involve lots of stakeholders, a complex buying process, documentation, legal exchange, all the stuff that's in the kind of traditional like commercial or mid-market or enterprise deal cycle. You can't have an automation. You can't have a bot replace that. Maybe someday there's a bot that can field inbound order taking. So if you sell a highly transactional SaaS product that's, inbound and sign up with your credit card, then I'd say it's pretty possible very soon that generative AI or ChatGPT could field an order in that way. But if you're doing outbound selling to large enterprises, no. But I am always curious about how it could supplement what sellers are doing. Because here's the thing, and you know this too now that you're in the enterprise or you're in the AE seat, and I know you've done an enterprise deal also. You've got to find force multipliers in your day. You have to find ways that you can streamline your own efforts to keep your process going, right? And sometimes in good companies, they've built a way to do that easily, right? There's team members that help you with different aspects of the sales cycle. There's, technical consultants that help you with that. You've got managers who are giving you air cover through the whole process. But in startups, a lot of that doesn't exist. So if you're selling, SaaS as an AE in a startup, you probably don't have a bunch of resources. And I think ChatGPT might be one of those ways where you can get more done with less. You can use it to write a sequence in 2 minutes rather than sit down and kill an hour or 2 hours writing a sequence or whatever, however long it takes you to do it on your own, you might be able to use it to query lists of things or condense long documents down to really simple terms. And I think it could be a really good enabler of minimizing the complexity in our business.
And I think it's going to help. What we talked about at the beginning is it's going to help founders with selling. I think that that's going to be a potential help for even getting people into the startup ecosystem.
Yeah, I think so too. I really think so too. And that, look, this is one of the fun things about selling SaaS and tech is it is the Wild West. It always kind of has been. And we're going to continue to see really cool innovation. This is just the start of things. There's who knows what comes out in 6 months. Like in a year from now, the world could look totally different. And it's fun to be part of a tech company where you're selling on that curve, right? On that innovation curve. And so I'm excited for it. I think it's really cool. I need to play around with it a little bit more. I'm going to keep playing around with it and probably talking a little bit more about it in the show. Again, I don't feel super qualified to talk about it now because I haven't done a lot of research on it other than put a couple of prompts in. But yeah, I think it opens up a lot of cool possibilities.
Love it.
Well, anything you want to promote or talk about before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just the job climate has really shifted since I first got in this business, and I want to put it out there that there are companies that are still hiring, and there's a lot of resources, um, and there's a lot of groups for that. One of them is Powder Keg in Indy, and there's just so many good job boards, and I really think if we can connect to each other, that we can all lift. Everybody can lift the boat. It's like we can. There is a way to find new roles. There is a way to do different things. So I know it's
Yeah.
been every time I look at my news thing, it looks like somebody else has laid off 10,000 people.
Yep.
Um, and that's tough to think about. But
Yeah.
what I love about you, Jesse, and
All right,
what
let's
I'm
hear
going to
it.
work on now is I'm going to work on my own personal brand because that's what I always will have.
So
And nobody can take that away from you. And I was in a meeting with the corporate bro and Scott Leese. Scott Leese had the corporate bro on his little Tequila Tuesdays. And I mean, it was just amazing hearing this guy, Ryan's story, and how he has just skyrocketed his clout from being a seller, and it's his brand.
yeah. Well, I think Scott, I think this is from Scott, and I'm going to totally butcher the quote, but it's something like job security is like feeling secure at your company with your relationship with your boss and your ability to sell your product. But like career and brand security is like a whole nother level, right? When you have a brand and you have a reputation, and by the way, having a brand doesn't mean you have to post on LinkedIn. It doesn't mean you have to have a podcast. It doesn't mean you have to have a newsletter or a blog. It just means that you have a reputation in your industry of being able to drive results and get stuff done. So start there. A lot of people think when they hear personal brand that they're like, oh shit, I got to go start posting on LinkedIn and I don't know, I got to set up a Substack or something like that. But I don't think that's what it is. I think having a brand is still just being the best at what you do and finding an area where you've continually delivered results and then having that reputation precede you, right? That way, if you do get laid off or you do have to change jobs, your next employer will be able to quickly find out from your network who you are and what you're capable of. And I'm really glad that we're talking about this because I think you do such a good job in the community of keeping an ear to the ground for opportunities, because we've had a couple people come into our Slack channel and say, hey, I'm out of work. Who knows what's out there? And Chase is usually the first one to respond with a couple of job links to different things. And it's a tough market out there right now. My thoughts on that are it's just going to take a little longer, quite a bit longer than it used to take to land a good job in SaaS than it did a year ago or 2 years ago. So prepare accordingly. So, how I would prepare is just always kind of be ready, have your, plan B in place and be thinking about what you would do if you lost your job tomorrow suddenly, and how you would go about finding your next thing. And then the tactic that I hear seems to be working really well, that I know a lot of people in the community have deployed, is find out, build a dream list of companies you want to work for. And then start reaching out to the sellers at that company. That can be the SDRs, that can be the AEs, but reach out to the actual contributors. And in a lot of cases, they get a referral fee for recommending candidates. And so start to network with those people and spend some time adding value to those people, and they will introduce you to their leadership. You can also go and message the VP of sales at a company you want to work for. I think that's not a bad move. Just make sure that when you do that, you're ready to just make sure you do some preparation, right? Don't just spam VPs of sales. It's not going to get you the result you want. But if you go in and have maybe an opinion on something, or a hypothesis on something, or an idea, I would share those things. But yeah, you seem to do a really good job of keeping an ear out for ops.
And well, it's very interesting. So we're in flyover country. So it's like Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, but we're actually starting to get a huge range of VC funding over here. And there is just a lot of talent that I'm starting to see. Like, a lot of people that are successful in this business come from customer service background that might not even have, I don't have a tech background, and I love this background, or I love this job, this field. And I really attribute it to all my valeting, making smoothies for people, working at a bar, whatever. Those soft skills are very important, and don't lose.
They really are.
I think the soft skills, we're losing that as a culture, and it's like being a human and like creating relationships.
Yeah.
I want to be known as a super connector, and the person that basically, I'm a concierge, a business concierge. I can push people to wherever they need to go. And that's like my gift.
I love that. And people from all kinds of backgrounds are going to continue to be successful. And I think leaning into that, like owning your background and saying, hey, I came from the smoothie shop, or I came from, again, I've worked with a lot of people that came from hospitality or banking or whatever, and are jumping into this, and they're using that to their advantage in some form or fashion. So using your network, hanging in there. I think maybe it was you who said it in the community, that it's probably best just to turn off notifications right now. If you've got a Google keyword set up for layoffs, turn it off. It's not doing you any favors. You said something to this extent, just like turn that news alert off, because there's going to be more layoffs. It's not fun news. It's certainly devastating to see in the industry. And I think everyone should be thinking right now about that. Everyone should be thinking that they don't really have job security this year. Nobody really does. It doesn't matter if you work for a top 5 tech company, or if you're at an early startup, or somewhere in between. You don't really have full job security this year. So think about career security, as Scott Leese puts it. Like, how do you get career and professional security? Like, start building out your brand and start doing things that add value to others. And as Chase is doing, start growing your network, and start finding ways that you can, cross-pollinate, as the jargon is like introducing people who don't know each other, and add that value. So you're super good at that. And it's been awesome to see you help a bunch of people out who've been looking for their next thing.
Well, you've helped me out a lot, Jesse. This has been fun. And if I could be a resource to anybody, or if anybody needs call tracking and they're unhappy with call rail or call tracking metrics, just land me in my DMs and I'll make it happen.
What's the best way to reach you these days?
LinkedIn. I would say LinkedIn is gold for me. I'm also on Instagram at Mr. Life Bar. I'm pretty active I'm a little bit active on that. But yeah, either LinkedIn or Instagram. Those are my 2 channels.
Well, Chase, a pleasure having you on, man. Love having you in the community, and on to the next deal.
On to the next deal. I look forward to finishing 2023 out as a killer year. We're going to do it, Jesse, and we're in this together.